Hey guys, Ben here for Ben Jacobson Photo. It's been a while. My wife and I and our family have moved to Montana. We live in Bozeman now. No beard, long hair. Lots of things have changed. We moved here for a printing job, which is what I was doing back east. But I no longer do that. I now am a ski instructor in the winter, and I do real estate photography during the summer and all year really. I have 2 tripod reviews coming up, the first of which I wanted to go through the setup I have for my 200 to 600, and the second review will be my interior architecture real estate setup. That tripod's actually being used to hold the A6300 that's recording me right now. Both tripods are Leofotos. One is a Summit, which is the architecture setup, and then this is a Ranger. And I'll walk you through the differences of each one and why I chose those tripods. To get started with it, one of the big things is I've always had 2 tripods. I end up having one for video of me using the other. I've also typically had one better tripod for real estate and architecture work, and then one travel setup. Over the last couple of years, a lot has changed in the tripod scene, if you will. One of the big things is Peak Design came out with their really fancy, really cute travel tripod. It packs up to be about that big. I did order one when they came out. I participated in the Kickstarter and got mine, and I wasn't a fan at all. I then sold the Peak used and started researching some other options and landed on these Leofotos. They're kind of very close imitations maybe of the Really Right Stuff tripods. They're not clones, they've changed some things, but they're very, very similar. I will say the prices are wildly different, and that Really Right Stuff is more than twice as expensive as a Leofoto setup of the same size. My setup for my long lens is also my travel setup and also my landscape setup all in one. You really don't change anything to it to do one versus the other. The biggest thing is I have a gimbal adapter. This one is a 7 Oaks carbon fiber gimbal adapter that's sold at B&H. I'll have links to all these things in the description. But what this does is it uses your ball head as the rotational axis of your gimbal support for a long lens, and then this just gives you the up to down, and then rotation is handled through the lens collar of the lens itself. So you have 3 different axes controlled by 3 different parts. What this allows you to do is it's only one setup. I don't have to switch heads if I'm going to use my long lens versus my landscape stuff. Whenever I'm outside shooting, unless it's for real estate work, it's going to be a ball head for landscape work or a gimbal for long lens work, and this allows me to jump from one to the other very quickly. The balance, you do have to, if you watch me set the lens up, you do have to get the plate in the correct spot front to back, and the Wimberley plate I'm using does not have marks. But you can see right now it's maybe a hair back heavy, which means I just need to slide it forward a little bit. But it's relatively well balanced now, which is good enough for how I like to use it. You do have a lock here, which makes it so it won't go up, tilt up to down. This is a standard Arca clamp here, just the screw type. I do wish I could change that to a lever clamp, but haven't figured out a way to get that off yet without ruining anything. And then here's the real trick, is if you want to switch, I'm going to take the lens off first just so we don't drop anything here. So lens comes off that easily. If you want to switch to a ball head setup for different shooting, I have a lever clamp here, and the lever clamp's just kind of in a bad spot right now. There we go. Flip the lever, this comes out, set that aside, loosen the knob, and you have a traditional ball head. So I can now use this for traditional landscape photography without any problems at all. And then that 7 Oaks adapter can just sit in my bag. When I need to use it, you just pop it in and let it go. The ball head I'm using is an LH40. It's kind of their middle of the line ball head size from Leofoto. It is, again, very similar to the Really Right Stuff ball heads. Really Right Stuff makes some of the ball diameters do change, and Leofoto has I think they have a 36, a 30, a 25, the 40, and the 55, and they've changed their knobs and moved some things around so they're not exact clones of Really Right Stuff, but they are very, very similar for less money. I will say I tried the LH55 for this setup, and interestingly, the panning rotation feel was not as nearly as smooth with the big lens as it is with the 40. For some reason, it might have been that 55, it might be this 40, but having the two side by side, this 40 works much better for what I'm trying to do and is smaller, lighter, and less expensive. The other thing is the 40 is clearly designed for this apex of this tripod head. The diameters match up almost identically. It's a really nice setup. Now, another thing I want to show you with these legs, and again, to give you the model number, these are the Leofoto. Ranger is the series, and the thing with the Ranger is there's no center column, and the apex is small so that there's very little gaps between the legs on the tripod when they come together. The locks actually touch, and everything's perfectly parallel here, which is to say there's less wasted space when you go to put it in a bag. If you're never going to use a center tripod, having a larger diameter apex doesn't get you much, and it really just takes up more space when you are traveling with it, if you have to put it in a bag or anything. So let me break this down for you really quick. It's a 3-lock, 4-section carbon fiber tripod. It's a LS-364C. Now, 36, the 36 in that part number, is the diameter of the biggest leg, so it's 36 millimeters here. I'll put the sizes of the other leg sections in the description because I don't know them off the top of my head, but this is a very nice, very large diameter tripod, and you're not gaining a ton of weight for it. They do make smaller ones that are roughly the same length, just smaller diameter legs, but I generally really enjoy using a thicker tripod when I'm handling it. It just makes my life easier. I'm not a small guy, so that you might have a different opinion there, but find the size that you like. And I really enjoy these 36 millimeter legs. When folded down and collapsed, if you take the head off of this, it's barely 20 inches. Like the thread for the tripod itself, for the head itself, might put it over 20 inches. Now the reason that is important is because when you travel, a bag that you fly with quite often, the dimensions of bags are 22 inches by 14 inches by 9 inches. So if this is less than 20, it just fits in the bag no problem. Now the head might put it a hair over 20 or 22, and you can always go diagonal in your bag. But the big thing for me is when I'm flying and I'm worried about that, I can very easily spin the head off, put it aside, put this in that bag. It'll still go and carry on if I need it to. It'll very easily fit in a checked bag, and it allows me to fly with a tripod, not an obvious sight. So nobody knows what might be in my other bags with me. And it's just made for a really handy travel option that's moderately light. We're not talking really light. It's light for what it is, but it's still a couple pounds. I think it's around 3 pounds, but again, I'll put those specs in the description. But yeah, it makes for a very nice small package that travels well. It supports my big lens really well. It gets nice and small diameter wise for fitting in my bag, or even in my bag when I'm hiking. It fits in very well. The LH40 is fit to it quite well. They're really, it's a pairing. I think you can get this as a set. I'm not 100% sure. I know they include the 40 in some sets, but when you put this head on these legs, it's like, oh yeah, it's supposed to be like that. So let me just show you. I'm going to set it up one more time. The other thing for me is the total height of a tripod is always important. I'm 6'4". I don't want to have to hunch to look into my tripod. So I want small enough to go in my bag to travel, but I also want large enough that I'm not hunched over when I'm using it. So here, to put it back to the gimbal mode, loosen this lock, we put this clamp, you want it vertical. So it takes a second to just get this locked in here, just right. You want the pan knob totally loose. And then we grab the 7 Oaks gimbal adapter, slide it down in. It has a lip on the top so it won't fall out here, but it's loose. Now it's locked in. And then we're gonna slide camera. Let's see how I do with balance this time. That's pretty good balance this time. Unfortunately, the Wimberley foot has no marks on it, so you're kind of guessing, and it's quite near the angle on the back, but not exactly. So there's the tripod totally set up. I'm on a little bit of uneven ground here, but didn't level the tripod out. I could shorten a leg if I wanted to, but all I'm worried about in terms of true level when I'm using my long lens is that it's not going to fall over. And you can see this, the way I have it set up, is not going to tip over even with my heaviest combo on. Big fan of this setup. I've had it for about 4 or 5 months now. It's a tremendous value for a very solid, very well built carbon fiber tripod. I know there's a lot of options out there and it gets very confusing, but again, this Leofoto Ranger LS-364C has been quite impressive with its small apex paired with a Leofoto LH40 ball head and then the 7 Oaks carbon fiber gimbal. All right, this is Ben. It's been a pleasure. I know it's been a while, so welcome back, and hopefully this has helped you make a decision as to whether this is the tripod for you or not. Thank you. 2 tripod reviews, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Hiking with A7R4, 200, 600, a couple extra lenses, Leofoto Ranger 3 LS-364 on that side. This is only a mile from the car, so a little over 2 miles total we'll go. But I didn't want to bring any extra weight. Do have my bear mace, and just going for a nice little walk out here in the northern Bridgers in Montana. A little different than Rhode Island from what you guys are used to. Hope you enjoy it. Drop some comments as to what you'd like to see more of. Long lens work, not even reviews. Tripod reviews, we do that. Ball heads, gimbals, my real estate setup, just random stuff.